Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me yet again. So this is one video that I expect to be relaxed. I don't have a script that I'm reading from. I just want to share my experience with therapy as it is. Come with me. Now, my first day in therapy. Now, for you to become an effective therapist, you are expected to also go for therapy. One, it helps you understand what your clients go through, so that when you see a client behaving in a certain way in the therapy room, perhaps they're having challenges sharing on something, or they're being nervous, they're experiencing difficulties here and there, you can be able to empathize with them because you have been there. Number two, you could also be having your own issues that you have never addressed, and if you don't address them, then you may end up bringing them to the therapy room, of which it will interfere with the therapy process. So, nikaenda therapy the first day. Did I know what to expect? Yes, I did. To some extent, I did, because by the time I was going for my first therapy session, I had already started my practicum, and in fact, I had gone for it for quite some time. So I had already had the clients. So I had seen some of the things that were happening in the therapy room. So to some extent, I knew what to anticipate in terms of what the therapist will tell me, how we are going to begin the process, what are the questions that I'm going to be asked. Nilikuwa na idea. But now here's the thing. The other gender. So when I learned that my therapist was going to be a man, of course, it's not like I didn't have a choice, but I was looking for a therapist who can handle me well, who have some experience with the issues that I felt have been bothering me. And so I landed on this man, a male therapist. So nilikuwa ish kidogo. Then I asked myself a question. Why would I have a problem with having a male therapist? And I realized actually it has more to do with some of the negative beliefs I have adopted over the years. For those who know my story, I was brought up by my father was struggling with alcoholism and he was abusive. And so I had this negative image of men that I grew up with. And so I realized that is what was causing me to be nervous with having a male therapist. And so I decided to face my demons, to confront them. And I remember I decided I'm going to go right ahead with this man. So I showed up. First, it felt quite weird. Wacha tu niongee tu ukweli. It felt quite weird being on the client seat, because I was used to being on the therapist seat. So sitting there, let me be honest, at some point I would feel like maybe I should be the one asking questions. I know that sounds funny, but that is what I was feeling. I was feeling like I'm the one who is supposed to be asking questions. But I decided, no, Jennifer, there comes a time when you are on the receiving end, if I may call it that way. So you really have to compose yourself and act like the client you are, because yes, you are a client and you need help. Yes, because we all have some skeletons in the closet that we have always desired to handle. So we began the process, and I remember he told me where I would want us to begin. And I remember telling him I prefer he asks me questions and then I answer. But no, he told me, I'm giving you the liberty of telling me what made you feel that you want therapy, apart from it being a requirement for being an effective therapist, and so on. So I remember I brought on the table two issues. For me, these are the issues that have always bothered me for a long time. I can say I have significantly increased, but bado niko, especially in one of them, as I'm going to explain. I still feel I still have quite a way to go. So the first one, of course, it was this issue of the childhood wounds I feel that I sustained out of my father's alcoholism. Um, I had really made effort to work towards overcoming that issue. Because when I first learned that I have this issue and it bothers my view of men, it was about 2016, around there. And so over the years, I had been trying, reading about it, making conscious effort, so that when I'm judging a man, I don't just judge or ask myself, why am I thinking that way? Why am I looking at this man this way? What has he done to deserve the kind of judgment I'm giving him? So I had actually become very deliberate in the way I was relating with men. And actually, this is how I was able to ask myself, why do I have a problem with a male therapist? So those are the kind of questions I always, even up to now, that I always ask myself if I find myself judging a man negatively. And let me tell you, I was one very bitter soul against men. Like, if you had a problem with your husband, I could help you carry that grudge comfortably. That is the kind of a person I was. So I had quite worked on it. But of course, I had to bring it on the table, because I desired and I still desire to do even better along this area. And it's because I've realized there's so many people who are carrying such childhood wounds, and I want to be better at helping them. So I brought that issue to the table. And my therapist told me to give the story as it was from my childhood, from the point at which my father's alcoholism became a problem and what kind of experiences we had at home. Oh my God, that is when I felt like hell broke loose, because reliving those experiences, oh my God, I remember narrating them, both the funny, the uncomfortable, just everything, especially from where I was seated as a child in that family, because I was a child. The things I would see happening, the things I would hear being said by my father. And I remember, as I was narrating this entire process, if there is one person that I'm just so proud of, I have to mention here, oh my God, it has got to be my mother. Because remember, I was a spectator in that situation. I was mostly a spectator watching things unfold. My mother was the one receiving them. So I realized that my mother is this strong. For the first time, I felt that she must have been a very strong woman. I admired her. In fact, I remember at some point, it's like I moved out of the therapy room in my mind or mentally, and just started admiring my mother. You know, the kind of a woman she is. Because I looked at the issue. I remember the issue she has gone through as they were, and I realized I don't even think I have the energy to go through such. I don't even have I think many people have the energy to go through that. And she went through it, and not even once, listen, my viewer, not even once did I ever see my mother raise a hand against my father. I just don't know how she could control herself, for sure. And even she was also careful about, I also don't quite remember. I don't remember actually. I don't remember hearing her say something so nasty, if I could say that. Of course, she would express her frustrations, but I don't remember her saying anything nasty towards my father, despite all the abuse she was going through. But now, my mother aside, so that was part of it, just reflecting and realizing, oh my God, I think I have a woman that I really admire in terms of how she could control herself. I know we are not supposed to tolerate abuse, but being able to control yourself in the midst of abuse is something. So I then now proceeded to narrate the whole story, the shameful parts, because let me tell you, my dear ones, when you have an alcoholic father or mother, an alcoholic parent, oh, you endure a lot of shame as children. And I remember, like, my own father, he used to have quite a loud voice. So when he was speaking, it could be heard by our neighbors, actually like the whole village. That is what I used to feel. So you can imagine when you're walking along the road and you can hear the noise all the way from your home, and people are looking at you with these funny, weird looks. they are giving you these weird looks. Others are looking at you and wanawahurumia, like they're pitying you. It was never easy. And everything, I explained everything as it unfolded over the like 10 years of my father going deeper and deeper into alcoholism. Let me tell you, I have never really shared that story like I did that day. Because here is a person, and this is the power of therapy, my people. Here is a person who is willing to just sit down, remain silent and composed. Just listen to you. No judge, no a judging look. They're not looking at you like they're judging you. No interrupting. No making some funny comments and so on. Just listening to you. Oh, let me say, I had an experience like I've never had, because just knowing that there's someone who is willing to just sit and consume your problems, it is something. And I felt this must be what my clients go through. And let me tell you, people, there are people, I have had people come to me, pay for a session, but they don't even want you to tell them anything. At least for the first like 1 or 2 sessions, they don't want you to tell anything. And you can tell because they don't even give you an opportunity for it. So they speak. They vent, they empty their frustrations. They say all those ugly things that they have gone through, you know. At some point, they even appear like they are lost. They are not out of the therapy room mentally. So it's like they are in another place. And I make a conscious decision not to interrupt, because this is part of the training we are given, that you should try as much as possible not to interrupt your clients. So unless you feel like they're going outside the topic of the day or something, but even then you are still supposed to be accommodative, because they may be having a more pressing issue than what you had planned for the session. So I felt good. I really felt good. I felt a lot of relief. Because for the first time, I got someone who can understand me without judging me. I met someone who can just listen. I felt someone who I later figured, by the way, that has also gone through some issues. And so I've met someone who can understand where my story is coming from. And a bit, I go back kidogo to something else regarding how I was a bit nervous about having a male therapist. And this is why you really should work on your negative core beliefs. You see those beliefs that you have adopted over the years that are actually working against you. Because I remember when I went to, I met this man I remember he found me at the reception, and then we got into to the therapy room. And I requested him if I could use the washroom. And I remember, because the washroom is somehow, the door to the washroom actually opens into the office. And I remember he actually left. He left the room. That is how respectful he is. He is, because I believe he is still the way even now. So he actually left the room, and that he was not just doing it that first time. I saw him do it again, because as I was leaving, I again wanted to use the washroom. I guess the tension was something else. I was just feeling like I should, how you get tense and you want to go to the washroom and everything. So I realized he could not remain there as I'm using the washroom, and I feel it's really respectful of him. And so he would leave and then come once he hears me opening the washroom door, and he knows that I've returned to the office. So now coming forward, so this is a person who actually made me feel that I can be comfortable. Then next, he gives me a space where I can narrate my story as it is, without not having to cut out some parts because I'm fearing being judged. No, I just told it as it is, and I felt a lot of relief. Did I cry at some point? Oh, I did. Let me tell you, I know so many people have this assumption that therapists are these strong people. No, we have emotions. It is just that, and we cry. I can assure you of that. When things get tough, or when you come across something so emotionally touching, you cry. You find yourself crying. So I cried at some point, and I remember him walking across and giving me a serviette so that I could, giving me whatever so that I could wipe my tears. Now, I finished that. I went to the other giant in my room. The giant in my room. That has got to be, can you see this? It has got to be what led to this. And it is not just one incident. So this is actually an accident that I went through in 2021. That is what left. Let me come closer so that you can see it well. This is an accident that I went through in 2021. And to be honest, as I was leaving that car, as I was leaving the car now after it came to a halt, because it was actually a head-on collision. I was not the one driving, but I was on the co-driver's seat. So as I was leaving the car, I actually thought that my hand had been cut. So nilifikiria sina mkono. Actually, I had started imagining how my life was going to be without one hand, and it's without one this part. Hii inaitwa nini, by the palm or whatever, because I thought that imekatiwa hapa. I thought that it had been severed here to an extent that I was going to lose this part. So I had already started imagining that, because let me tell you, the blood that was gushing out of here, it was a lot. And actually remember, I had sat, because I was at the seat, so the blood was just flowing. It was flowing and going to the seat. And so it had also covered my entire back, butt. And when I came out of the car, those who had come to rescue us, they actually thought that I had multiple injuries somewhere. They were actually asking me, do you feel like you are injured at your back? Because I had a lot of blood at the back. And what immediately came to mind, I actually thought that because it was only 3 months after CS operation when giving birth to my daughter. She was 3 months, and I was actually with her in that car. So I had actually, what had come into my mind is that I could have my CS car could have ruptured, but I touched and felt like there was nothing. I couldn't feel anything anywhere, but I could see a lot of blood. And by the time nilikuwa nimeganda, like I wasn't really feeling pain. It was just a lot of blood that was flowing. Yeah. And I remember, because I had a certain band on my hair, I removed it so that they could use it to tie my hand to even stop the bleeding. So it was such a traumatizing incident. And for me, what traumatized me the most is not even the injury that I got, but my daughter. And you know, I thank God, because somewhere, this is a story maybe I shall give another day. Somewhere I was not with her to the co-driver's seat, because if I were with her, perhaps she could have gone right through the windscreen. But that I wasn't with her. Story for another day anyway. So for me, the most traumatizing part is, what if something happened to my daughter? And in fact, I took a lot of time keeping asking the people. I could see she was being held by another woman. I could see her and I could tell she's okay, but I was still so nervous. What if something has happened to her? And now add that to this issue of thinking of life without my hand. And at the time, I was purely doing online writing. So I need the 2 hands to be able to write. So it so happened that it was just some severe injuries, but my hand is still perfectly fine. But I was left with this scar. And many people usually ask me when we meet, what happened to your hand? And that is when I actually remember that I have a scar, to be honest. It is that it got so that is how I have overcome the issue. I no longer remember it. So I no longer remember it, to be honest. But on that day again, I had to relive the experience again on what happened on that fateful day. Oh, and the other thing that paralyzed me, it's the fear that we have, because it was a head-on collision and we were the one at fault. And so my greatest other fear was that other family, the one that was in that other car, that someone had died. Oh my God, that was just, whew, I could not even imagine knowing that we had caused the death of a person. So it was so fearful for me. But I thank God because we came to know that it's only the child. There was a child there who got a bit of a injury here, and he was taken to hospital and he was fine. But nonetheless, the events that led to that accident were very traumatizing to me. And that is why this car that I was left with, it's nothing. I honestly, I would want to live, especially as women, we have issues, we don't like having scars and all that. But let me tell you, this one, oh, in fact, I look at it and I thank God for his faithfulness, because it could have been worse. I could have lost my life, I could have lost my daughter, I could have lost my husband. I was with him in that car. But now, you people, what you don't know is that I had another accident in 2020 and another one in 2018. Your girl here has gone through a lot, but God is faithful. And I usually say that there must be something that the devil sees in me, and that is what he strives to bring down. And I thank God, because that shall never happen in the name of Jesus. So in 2020, that was a year earlier, I had another accident. And I remember that I was at the time, I think I was around 3 months pregnant or 4 months. And it was actually a public vehicle, a bus. So I boarded a bus and we did not even go for 100 meters. A matatu came from nowhere. I was seated also at the co-driver's seat, pale mbele kwa dereva. Hey, I'm a Kikuyu. I hope you understand, you people. So I was seated pale mbele, and then the co-driver's seat. I understand I have my fans who are not Kenyans, so I have to stop this a bit of using Kiswahili. So a matatu came from nowhere, knocked the side mirror. Then the side mirror hit the mirror. What do we call it? This window, this glass window on this side of the at the co-driver's seat. That window there, that glass window there. So it was hit, and when it was hit, it came to me. Or even when I had the blast, I knew something had happened. And I remember jumping all the way to the driver. Like, it was me, my husband, and the driver. And I remember jumping towards the driver to save myself. So I never sustained much injury from that incident. It was just a bit of scratches here and there. But again, it was traumatizing. That was a year earlier. Then in 2018, oh, that is the year mother, actually. Because in that one, I was alone. I was the one driving the car, and I got through the accident, and the entire car just got finished. It was total write-off. The only place, and this is what makes me know that I have the backing of God wherever I go, and the devil shall never win over me. The funny part is the part where you see, the entire area where the driver sits, that the entire area from the roof to the sides, the front, and that is the only place that did not have any damages. Like, it remained intact, and the rest of the car just broke apart. And that is how I got saved from that accident. And it was really traumatizing, because it hit the side of the road, went up, went down, and even changed direction, so that whoever was seeing the car would think it was coming this way, or I was going this way. So it was also very, very traumatizing. But I overcame. I overcame as well. But now, on this day of my first day at the therapy, oh, I wanted to just bring the issue on the table, because even though I have really done well towards overcoming these issues, I believe I'm not 100%. Because first, I fear small cars. Let me tell you that. I fear small cars. Okay, right now, to be honest, in fact, therapy works like magic. I just don't know how. Because from that very day when I gave that story in the therapy room, when I was going home, I was using a public means. I don't have a car yet, but there is God, eh? So we are going there. So I was using a public means, and I could see the small cars, the kind of cars that I fear. And it's because the 2 out of the 3 accidents I've had, it was small cars. So I used to fear. So when I saw the cars passing, for the first time, I imagined myself on the driver's seat of that car, and I was not feeling fear. I was not being engulfed in fear, because that is what used to happen in the past. Like, if I'm in the jam and I see a person pass, or even not even in the jam, if I'm on the road being carried by another vehicle and I see a small car pass, and then I'm imagining myself on that car, and then I get paralyzed with fear. But for the first time in years, when I boarded, when I saw that on the road and imagined myself driving that small car, I never felt anything. And that is when I knew, oh my God, this therapy has been long overdue. I should have gone for it, kitambo. And I remember even the therapist had actually asked me, how comes for this time you have never thought of going for therapy? And of course, I had these excuses here and there. It's something that I've thought about over the years. I had thought about over the years. I remember at some point even my husband really encouraging me to go for therapy. But as you may have seen, if you follow me on my page, by the way, Mental Health by Jennifer Carey, you may have seen that I never used to believe in this counseling thing. So I think that is one of the reasons that had made me take too long without going for therapy from the very first accident in 2018. So I had never gone, and I regret taking too long, but anyway, God's timing. So I gave that entire story. And when I finished, and let me tell you, and this is what many people don't realize, like my sessions go for 2 hours. And actually, in a hospital setting, it's a maximum of 1 hour. And the standard actually should be 1 hour. But now sometimes, remember, you can't interrupt the client when he or she is going through narrating something that is emotionally tense. So guess what? By the time I was finishing giving my stories, my skeletons in the closet, that is what I call them, I think more than an hour was gone. And we had not, remember, we had the introduction part, and then now I started the story. By the time I was finishing, it was way more than an hour. And that is how I ended up remaining in therapy, I think 2 hours or something. So I looked at the time and I was shocked, but the therapist reassured me that it's okay, even if we go beyond time, it's okay. Now I finished, and he asked me, how do you feel? How do you feel now? I sat back and listened to myself. Again, here I'm being honest. On one side, I had this kind of weird feeling. I think because this is something you have kept within you for so long, and now you have just brought it out, all of it. So there is this weird feeling like, oh, I think I've opened myself. I have, it's like I've brought myself inside out. Now I am out. Like, unaona vile you can if you have a bag, a certain bag, then you bring out the inside part out. Yes, that is what I was feeling. But on this other side, I was feeling so relieved, Yani. I don't know, it's like a huge burden had just been lifted out of my heart. And then I remember reflecting and realizing that whatever load that I had been carrying, it must have hindered me from doing so much. And this actually came to manifest later when I got out of the session, and as I was going home and realized I could now no longer fear the car. And I asked myself, because this is a question by the my therapist posed it to me, and he told me, I want you, when you go home, you go and reflect on what other areas of your life could have been affected by this trauma. The trauma from my childhood and the trauma from the accident. And I remember at that point, just when right there in the therapy room, I realized, I reflected and went back to a certain issue in my life, and realized it could be doing way better. In fact, in my marriage, to be specific, I could be doing way better were it not for that trauma. And looking for the trauma from my father and looking at the childhood trauma and this issue that I'm talking about, they are quite unrelated. But somehow I realized there are some beliefs I bring to this particular aspect, and then these beliefs actually come from the trauma that I had with my father. And then that is the time I made a conscious decision to really reflect on the issues that I could be doing not as good as I would want, and it's because of the things that I went through. So that is how we ended up our session. It took so long, like I consumed a lot of the time telling my story, but I was feeling so good. I felt so good giving it. At the end, I like I've told you, there is a point where I was feeling like I have now washed dirty linen in public. But let me tell you, people, first, like I keep saying, you may have seen me say on my page, again, Mental Health by Jennifer Kiddo, my Facebook page, and on Instagram, the same. I keep telling my clients that the therapist, there is nothing surprising to them. Myself, I have had and seen so much. You know, I have practiced in a busy psychology clinic, a busy public hospital psychology clinic for over 1 year. And where there, I've seen it all. Mention it, I have seen it. Mention it, I have seen it. There is nothing I think that you can come and tell me that would make me... There are those I find weird, to be honest. The other day I wrote on my page and said, there are some things that people tell each other in marriage, and I hear them, I'm like, oh my God, why would anyone even say that? But to be honest, there is nothing like, wow, oh, you went through that. No, I don't. Nothing really surprises me. And that could explain why this my therapist was just composed, seated and composed. And so that was it for the first session. And I remember as I went from that office down the stairs so that I could go and board a mat home, I was feeling like, yes, I think I've begun a beautiful journey. And it's a journey of breaking free from issues that have held me bondage for many years. I was assuming that I had really overcome, but I think I was on the issue of the childhood trauma from my own father. I think I was at 70%. So I still had a whole 30% that I needed assistance with, or even 60. So I had all that I needed assistance with. And on this issue of accident, oh my God, I think I was still very far. Maybe I think I was at 40%. So I still needed the 60% to be assisted with. Now, as I will explain in the subsequent videos, I came to realize that actually, and not even realizing, because these are issues that I've seen with my own clients, as you go through the session, so you presented with one or two things, but as you go through the sessions, others keep coming up, keep coming up, keep coming up. So as I shall explain in the subsequent videos, because this is a series that I intend to make, and it's to encourage you, my people, to go for therapy, because you don't need to spend your life carrying baggages that you don't need to. Don't do it. It's too unfair to yourself. So as you shall come to know, there are issues that came up along the way, and I thank God because we were able to resolve them. So see you in the next video. Thank you so much. I hope I did not transfer things, the emotive moments to you. I want you to really enjoy this video, and most of all, I want you to learn from it so that you can go for therapy and not here. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have subscribed. Please do hit the like button. And as my number is passing here, kindly, if you want to see me privately, go ahead and do it.